Hello, and welcome back to the Masonic Roundtable, a weekly hangout where Masons from around the world get together to talk about Masonic news and opinions in a friendly and social manner. The thoughts and opinions expressed here are solely the opinions of the participants and do not represent any Grand Lodge statements or positions. Make sure you keep your conversations open for the public and on the level. To interact with us, send questions and comments to our Twitter page at Mason Roundtable or on our Facebook event page. As usual, my name is John Ruark, and I'm one of your hosts, and I am a past master of the Patriot Lodge number 1957 in good old Fairfax, Virginia. And I'll hand it off to Robert for introductions.
Hey guys, Robert Johnson here, the host of Whence Came You Masonic podcast and the current Worshipful Master, just a couple months left, of Waukegan Lodge number 78 in Waukegan, Illinois.
Alrighty, and I'll hand it off to Nick. And
Nick Johnson, Corinthian Lodge number 67, past master, big time Farmington.
Hoorah. Thanks, Nick. And last but not least for tonight, Juan Sepulveda.
Hello everyone, Juan Sepulveda here. I am the member at large of Orange Blossom Lodge number 80 in Kissimmee, Florida, and the host of the Winding Stairs Freemasonry podcast.
Thank you, Juan. And Jason is not with us tonight, again, for the second time in a row. I know he's kicking himself over that. Last week he had laryngitis. This week he had a bad case of dehydration. So one of these days he's going to stop coming up with excuses and get back on the show. But Jason, we're rooting for you to pull through, buddy.
Absolutely.
And to make things even more off script, we don't have much Masonic news this week, so we'll go right into the Masonic Monday question on Tuesday.
Oh my gosh, no news.
No news.
What am I supposed to do here? Usually I'm spacing out at this point. What do I do? Okay. All right, I got it. I'm back on script. Here we go. Masonic Monday question answer for the week of August 31st, 2015. So we had a number of responses, and I do, in fact, have the copy of this book. Of course, it's upstairs because when I'm usually spacing out, it's usually when I'm also running around rummaging for things that I forgot before the broadcast goes on. So, yeah. All right, here we go. So, congratulations to Justin the First Miller of Sacramento Lodge number 24, Christopher Croto of Dorchester Lodge number 1, Grand Lodge of Vermont, and then the first one was Grand Lodge of New Mexico, Greg Guffey of Acacia Lodge number 51 in Minnesota, Willem Kosen of Et Middelpunt number 280. I think that's how Dutch sounds when you say numbers. Grand Oosten de Netherlands. He said he was going to teach me the pronunciation. I'm going to get it one of these days. Our own Jason Richards of Acacia Lodge number 16, Grand Lodge of Virginia. And of course, he doesn't even get his accolades, even though he won. So we have Jared Chapman of Claremont Lodge number 436, Grand Lodge of California. Darius Butler of Palestine Lodge number 189 of the Grand Lodge of Maryland. Christopher Dorset of Coastal Lodge number 57, Grand Lodge of Connecticut. James Webb of Mount Hermon number 118, Grand Lodge of North Carolina. Simon Dick, who is still a petitioner of Joseph Warren Gothic Lodge number 934, Grand Lodge of New York. Joey Boyer of Chandler Thunderbird Lodge number 15, Grand Lodge of Arizona. Lou Bedford of Palestine Lodge number 158, Grand Lodge of Ohio. Christopher Fetko of Jefferson Lodge number 553, Grand Lodge of Michigan. Let's see, Michael Laidlaw of West Covina Lodge number 446 of California. Christian Dubbs of West Chester Lodge number 322 under Pennsylvania. Chuck Springer of Stanfield Lodge number 217 of Texas. Shane Cody of Maine Lodge number 20 in surprising Maine. And Michael Skrotsky of Union Lodge number 40, Grand Lodge of Connecticut. The answer was The Master and Margarita by Mikhail Bulgakov. Bulgakov. There we go. I'm watching the show right now. It's called The Young Doctor's Notebook. It's pretty good, and I don't know how they say these Russian words on that show. Bonus, his father, Afanasy Bulgakov, wrote the book Modern Freemasonry. Wow, that was a lot of talking. All right. Okay, Masonic Monday question for the week of September 7th, 2015. The Christian character, culture, and nature of the Masonic Order of the Knights Templar has led to many non-Christian Royal Arch Masons having to stop their progression into the later chivalric orders of the York Rite. This situation ultimately led to an organization designed to serve as a parallel body for non-Christian Royal Arch Masons. It was founded in Western New York in 1974. It conferred 2 degrees and based its underlying legend on the Maccabean Revolt. Your question: what was this parallel Masonic body that never received Grand Lodge recognition? Bonus: what were the names of the 2 orders that the body conferred? When you have the answer, send it to masonicmonday@gmail.com. Don't forget to include your lodge name, your lodge number, and the hashtag Lost But Not Forgotten. Back to you, John.
All right. Thank you, Nick. So that's a good question this week. I'm looking forward to hearing the responses. All right. Let's get right into it. The elevator pitch. This is kind of a fascinating topic because this is something that's been kicked around for some time. And we'll get into the specifics of how it relates to Freemasonry later on. But, definitely from a marketing, advertising aspect, any good organization, including Freemasonry, should have a good marketing pitch, or something called an elevator pitch. The reason we chose the elevator pitch per se is I've seen this question posed on multiple threads on Reddit, on Facebook, the Winding Stairs group, lots of other areas where, what do you say we do? What would you say you do here exactly? Because we do lots of things, right? And it's very hard to succinctly describe what it is our organization does. So the purpose of an elevator pitch is to concisely describe, as if you were getting in an elevator. You're in there with a VP. Let's just say you happen to be on vacation, and you're at a hotel, and you get on the ground floor of an elevator, and the President of the United States walks in, sees your ring, and says, "Tell me about Masonry." You've got 30, maybe 60 seconds of his attention to convey what it is that we do. So the concept is that you should be able to describe in a very compelling way what it is your organization does in a very short time frame. So Juan, why don't you lay out maybe some ideas of what makes up a good elevator pitch?
Well, John, one of the things that I like to tell people when they think about an elevator pitch, first of all, why would you want an elevator pitch? I believe that at the moment that someone asks you, what is Freemasonry? Or why are you a Mason? You become the unofficial spokesperson to our fraternity. You better be ready.
That's a good point.
You better be ready to not make us look like a fool. Because the history that our fraternity shares is one that it's rich, one that has gone through ups and downs, one that has provided a lot of material for you to be able to explain what Freemasonry is, and you don't want to be caught in the like a deer in the headlights when someone asks you and you're like, oh, well, it's a group of guys. You don't want that. You want to have
Stuff.
Yeah, and well, we do some stuff. We get together, we eat pancakes. You don't want to do that. Especially, you don't want to perpetuate some of these misconceptions that we suffer from. You want to be able to eloquently express yourself and give people a good presentation of what Freemasonry is, in a nutshell. So, going to your original question. In a corporate setting, if you were to construct a good elevator pitch, some of the components that you want to present are, in just 60 seconds, you want to express what the problem is. Is there a problem that your organization or your corporation solves? What's the problem? Then you state your solution as an enterprise. What's your solution to that problem? In that 60 seconds, you also explain who your target market is. You give a brief mention of what your competition is, what makes you come above your competition, like what sets you apart. You talk about your team. What is your enterprise, who is your enterprise comprised of? You talk about the financial aspects of it. Also, you talk about your milestones. Have you accomplished good things, or do you look forward to accomplishing things in your organization? And then you close it out with a call to action. The call to action is whether it could be asking a question or encouraging people to ask more information, or for them to actually take the next step that's going to get them closer to your business. And we believe that this is something that applies to Masonry. We can use that particular structure. We present a problem, a solution, blah, 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 in our presentation, or that initial presentation of what Freemasonry is, to a complete stranger. So, what do you think about that?
No, that's really good. And the thing that's kind of hard for a lot of guys to consider too is that this is a business-oriented thing, and so Juan has a lot of business background and experience, and I'm just an amateur businessman myself, trying to learn the lingo and all that. But it really comes to what are you selling? And yes, we're not selling Masonry. We're not recruiting. We have a whole episode on recruitment. Go back and watch that one. But we do. Those components do make up kind of your marketing campaign, your advertising campaign. Another thing I want to build on that one is those are some typical components of an elevator pitch. Some other ones that I've heard are you have to have a hook, something to bring them in. Something like, have you ever had a challenge of doing this? Well, we have a solution for that. Just something to kind of get their attention. And you have to be passionate, right? You can't just sell. If you create an elevator pitch, but you sell it as, well, we're good people and do stuff. If you don't have the passion, if you don't bring it, again, you're not a good representative of the organization. And as Juan said, call to action could also be a request. Do you need something from them? Because you have to leap. Instead of just giving it and saying, this is what we do, period, end sentence, then you get this awkward pause, right? And then what, right? You're not asking them to do anything, right? And again, this is where it gets kind of awkward for a fraternal organization, especially one that doesn't actively recruit. It's where you can kind of hook them back in, just to say, you got their attention at the beginning. Now you need to ask something of them to keep them engaged.
Yeah. And I see it as a conversation when you're chit-chatting with someone else, and you're establishing a rapport. It is usually important for you to ask something of the other person. So here you give them an opportunity to tell you, have you heard of Freemasonry before? What do you know about Freemasonry? Do you know any Masons? I find myself asking those questions all the time. Am I the first Mason you ever meet in person, or do you know anybody else? Because those kinds of questions can give you a behind-the-scenes look at what the preconceived notions this individual has of our fraternity. It almost gives you that fair warning before they pull out some conspiracy, or they pull out some religious objection. You can get them a little taste, like, have you heard of Freemasonry before? Or like, do you know anybody else? You can get them talking to you, giving you a little bit of information of what their background is in relation to Freemasonry.
Mm-hmm. What do you guys think, Nick, Robert?
You know, I've only had the opportunity to have an elevator pitch one time, and I think I did it in a way that was over the top dramatic. And that guy actually joined the fraternity, but he later told me that he didn't know whether he was going to follow through or not because I scared the poop out of him. I basically, he asked me about it, and my hook was literally the mystery. And I had one of my Grand Lodge cards on me, and he asked about the fraternity, and I almost wanted to just hit the elevator stop button, but I didn't. I literally turned to him, and right before I got out of the elevator, I just said, "Call me when you want to change the world, man." And I walked out. And that was
That's nice. That's a good tagline.
and it worked, you know. But the importance of it is so huge. I didn't really hear about it, you know, an elevator. It was never something that was brought to my attention until actually Todd Creason and Mike Shirley did a post on the Midnight Freemasons a while back, and it was called Craft in 30 Seconds. And, you know, a lot of the quotes and things from that particular piece were a lot shorter than 30 seconds, but it kind of focused on what could you tell somebody in just a second?
Yeah.
What could you tell somebody in just a mere moment about the fraternity that would make them just like go, wow, I need to do that. Like, what could you tell them? And I think it's important to sit down, just like, you know, maybe, I don't know if you've ever been at work or your company has ever had to come up with a mission statement or a new design or something, and they hold a huge pool contest where everybody has to send something in and they pick one thing. And they end up picking something that usually embodies everything in just a few words. You know, it goes back to marketing, and Juan knows so much about this. One of my favorite marketing is Amazon. A lot of people don't understand that the smile on Amazon, you know, is an arrow pointing from A to Z, that they have everything, and it's a smile that makes you happy. Their charity is Amazon Smile, and like, it's just, it works in every single way. It's like Hebrew gematria. The way you turn it, it makes sense, and it fits in a puzzle. And it's one of those things that's just so important to have, because like any tool, you know, I keep matches in my car, but the reason I keep them in there is because I'll probably never use them, but if I do need them, they're there. And it's the same thing with an elevator pitch. You might never have to use it, but the one time you need it, you don't want to sound like, you know, a goofball stumbling over your words.
Yeah. Now, I know Nick has a natural aversion to mission statements, right? You've mentioned that in the past.
Well, you know, honestly, I really enjoy the song "Mission Statement" by Weird Al Yankovic, and it really describes my love of corporate culture and what it eschews. You know, it's kind of interesting for me. I always have a problem with the audience. Who am I talking to? Because, you know, you either have these guys who are super duper interested, and they've you know, read every book, every blog, everything that they've ever. I mean, you know, the information is so out there that, you know, you talking to them, they're going to sit there and say, yeah, I knew that like 5 seconds ago. Can you tell me about, you know, where this Templar treasure is? Because seriously, it sounds amazing. You know, but then you've got the guys that, you know, you're telling them what Freemasonry is, and they're not necessarily, you know, they're on the fence on what it is, and you don't want to sell it because solicitation's not just wrong, but it feels wrong. And so then you're like in that boat. But then you've got like non-Masons, and what do you do with that audience? Because, you know, you're trying to dispel any kind of weird stuff, just like we were saying, you know, trying to explain that, no, we're not, you know, goats don't enter our lodges often, so, you know, just chill out, you know. And so it's kind of hard for me to like divide up who am I talking to, and I guess that's kind of the most important point is, you know, you have to decide this audience, because you've got the one guy who knows everything, you've got the next guy who knows next to nothing, And then you have the public that either is afraid of us or has no idea we even exist anymore. And so it's kind of interesting. We actually almost have to write 4 different mission statements just to explain it. And the fact that it took, 2 of the smartest Masonic scholars an entire book called "Is It True What They Say About Freemasonry?" to kind of just go after just one of those audiences, and that book is more than 100 pages long. It's very difficult. I've spent years. I was on the Sanctum Sanctorum forum, for many years. That thing's gone. I don't even know. Yeah.
You're
You're
fired.
fired. You're fired. Vote for me. You're fired. But it's kind of
you spell that one again and we'll drop you.
yeah, exactly. No politics or whatever. Geez, don't you know anything about anything? But I actually had a guy who sounded just like that who told me about something like that. Never mind. Another story, another time.
Yeah, Nick, I did want to tell you though about that
good.
audience part. The way that I look at it, if you have something that is general enough, that it's not too political and it's not too religious, it just gives the bare bones of what the fraternity is. Once you present that, you can gauge what the audience is. You can gauge, like, why did they ask me about my ring, or why, if you have that call to action where you ask them, what do you know about Freemasonry? You can kind of get a feel, and then you know how to tailor the rest of your conversation to it. But that initial component, this is how I look at it. The importance of having it nailed down so it doesn't come out robotic or rehearsed, so that you know what you're going to say in the event that someone questions you, is because it helps you avoid coming across as the Masonic apologist. You don't want that initial interaction to be, oh, well, we're not a religion, and we're, it's a secret. You don't want to do that, because it feeds into all that negativity that's out there about us.
It's so funny you say that, because I got to jump in. I've seen older brothers, that they'd have a new guy show up to lodge, and that's the first thing they do is they'd say, well, you may have heard about goats. Well, yeah, we don't have goats. Well, you may have heard about secrets. Well, the secret of Masonry is there are no secrets. BS, by the way. And
Totally agree.
Every time I hear that, it's just.
I hate that. I hate that. That could be a topic on its own. And just they go through line by line all of like they just say, oh, you may have heard this. Well, that's not true. And you're like, well, you've just given them nothing to want. You haven't told the positive. You just dispelled maybe even negatives, maybe at best. So
Yeah.
Well, and they make us sound like a Lions Club. It's
Thank
just
you.
Terrible.
Thank you.
It's like, yes, I get it. Some lodges participate in pancakes. I don't understand it. I'm not a pancake guy. Whatever. But it's like, honestly, and you're absolutely right, Juan. You have to have something there, a statement of some kind. And that's exactly it, John. I mean, you've got this idea that these guys, especially the older guys, and maybe it's just from years of having to explain themselves to their wife, because why are they going out yet again?
Why are they defending Masonry? Why are they being the
What do you
Masonry
have a
apologists?
problem with my pancake group? I mean, seriously, do you hate pancakes? Are you a pancake hater? I mean, seriously, and it's like, but and I don't understand it. It's like, let's just remove not just all the rough edges. Let's just remove it all and just have one point and say,
Nice.
well, this is a thing that we do that we don't really understand, but it's a thing and we love it,
Mm-hmm. So I think it's good that we have another later pitch. So let's bring this back into Freemasonry. So this has been something that's been brought up on Whence Came You. It's been I think it's been brought up on Winding Stairs. Correct me if I'm wrong, Juan. I've heard it on Ex Oriente podcast. That really you need to have that at the ready. Now, the first thing when I brought this up in other forums is I was amazed at the reaction I got from brothers saying, well, we don't need a recruiting tool. Well, people should come on their own, right? Well, we don't need to give them a hook or marketing. We don't need to market Freemasonry, and I'd say that's BS too, right? That that's, I mean, whether or not we agree with it, we're doing that right now, right? We are representatives of the fraternity, and when people want to join, if you're not a recruitment organization, you've got to have something that shows at least a product demonstration, right? Think of it as you go to Best Buy, you read the product, you pull the software off and read the package description on the box. Doesn't mean that you have to buy it, but at least you need to know what's in the box, right?
Yeah.
And so, yeah, just there's so many times where I've been burned where people said, "Well, we don't need this because it speaks for itself." Well, no, it doesn't.
It doesn't. Exactly. And you know, I
Go ahead, Mark.
I come across this all the time where you encounter people that have this aversion to anything that has anything to do with business or marketing, almost see it as if it's a complete evil. Listen, we live in a society where we depend on one another's production in order to survive.
You know, now more than ever.
Yes. You know, if it were that we're, you know, planting our own crops and harvesting them and eating them, then that's fine. Then we don't need any kind of marketing. We don't need any kind of business understanding because we're doing it all ourselves. Becoming savvy about what business entails and what marketing is just basically arms you to protect yourself and understand what you're consuming, that you don't get someone to pull a fast one over you. So the same thing applies to what we do. Here, we're not trying to, you know, do a hard sell and, you know, come join us. You better, you know, it has nothing to do with that hard sell. But you need to be able to articulate that you are producing something that is of value to that other individual. And in the process, if you don't articulate that correctly, then somebody else who is producing something else, perhaps of less value, is going to take on that consumer.
They're going to get it, yeah.
Yeah, so it's in our best interest to know what we have, recognize what our value is, and understand how to express it. Otherwise, they're going to keep on going and joining other organizations that don't offer what we do.
So let's start with the kind of the classic example of maybe a complicated or maybe obsolete elevator pitch of what Masonry is, and I love it when you decompose it. It's very concise, which is the common one. It's a system of morality, veiled in allegory, and illustrated by symbols. I've literally given that line to guys, and guys were said, "What's that mean?"
That's a really quick, when you have them in the palm of your hand. It's like the scouts will understand this. Nick, were you a scout? You were a scout, right? Okay.
Eagle Scout.
So
that's a yes.
When you're building a fire and you got the little bit of a smolder happening, and at that moment you can either blow a little too hard or not enough. You're going to either lose it or it's going to come to life. Mm-hmm. And so,
I love it.
With that, when you give something like a system veiled in allegory, a system of morality veiled in allegory, illustrated by symbols, if that person has, it literally goes, what?
Right over their head. You've lost them. Yeah, they're done.
Okay, so when was that written? And that might have been period language for today's. Dude, so we teach you how to be awesome by telling you stories, and then we show you symbols to remind you of those stories.
I like it.
Yeah. Now, how do you do that in emoji?
How do you do that in an emoji? That's what we need for
today. That's awesome. I challenge you to text us an emoji.
The Masonic pitch emojis.
That's hilarious.
We can laminate a little card and show it to people. What is Freemasonry? Boom.
That's Juan's department.
It's a pizza slice and a lamb. Yeah, too bad there's not like a Masonic green beans emoji. There's also taglines like to be one, ask one. That's more of a tagline. It's really not an elevator pitch. It's really just kind of a one-sentence short punchline, but that's really not what we're talking about tonight. And then I know many people, including Jason Richards, who hates that tagline.
Yeah.
What about, have you guys heard the bumper stickers that say, "It is in God I do"? Have you seen those?
Go on.
They just say, "It is, period, in God, period, I do, period." Because it's the first
Interesting.
Cryptic.
Yeah. So they're playing on the element there. And in fact, I think that's the name of Brian Shimeon's website is itisingodIdo.com. But as a free plug for you, Shimeon.
Oh.
But seriously, so that's another one that's out there. And they use that one down in the South, that's like all over Tennessee, Kentucky.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, last week, a couple of weeks ago, Robert made a little meme of me saying like a combination of different.
Go find it,
slogans
Robert.
like that.
Go find it.
Yeah, please find that. Some brothers took offense to that.
Did they really?
Yes, they did, and I posted it on the Winding Stairs Freemasonry group. And
probably because I said SMIB.
well, some brothers took offense to it because they felt that those little phrases were helpful to them, that they had used them, or that they had had a positive impact in their own experience of Freemasonry, and that's perfectly fine. The reason we made that jest as to the combination of all of those, you'll see those in a little bit, was because people use them ad nauseum. They just use them all the time, and they're constantly creating little images about them, and they lose their strength. They really
they're
lose
overplayed. They're sound bites, and
yeah.
yeah.
So that is like a condensed version of what we're talking about.
There we go. Read it off there, Robert.
So it's Juan, and he's holding his hand up like he's giving a lecture, and it says, "You get out of Masonry a society of secrets. Ask one, better men. So mote it be."
I really love it, not because it has my picture, my narcissism kind of plays to it, but I really like the whole idea because it plays fun on the overuse of some of these phrases, which have been of impact to people, but if you use them so much and you don't give them the right purpose that they should have, then it loses effectiveness. And our elevator, if you are able to construct an elevator pitch, or take the ones that we will share with you later, or have your lodge construct their own, you have a better chance at really having a positive impact on the person that is asking you about Freemasonry.
Well, I think we're at that point of the show now where each of us are going to try to give our version of an elevator pitch about what Freemasonry is. And again, this is not to be taken as the gospel, way forward, but this is just something for you to consider. Make your own, as Juan said. But maybe take some aspects of what you hear and try to mix that up to make a story that's compelling and that's repeatable and that you can memorize, that you can give that off the top of your head should the need arise. That tool in the tool belt. So I'm going to start off with Jason's. Jason was kind enough, although he was feeling under the weather, to put one together, and we'll throw that out there. We'll kind of comment on it, and we'll go to the next guy. So Jason says that Masonry is a fraternity of men who work to build each other up into better men, fathers, brothers, and citizens, while nerding out on philosophy. Masonry isn't inherently a charitable organization, but the charity that Masons exude is a natural extension of the fraternity's emphasis on self-betterment. In order to become a member, you need to profess a belief in the Supreme Being. Whatever form that takes is entirely up to you. But that shared belief acts as a unifying force in Masonry and serves as a springboard for the aforementioned nerding out of philosophy. So, what do you guys think of that?
I like how current it is.
It's good. It touches on a lot of the elements it gives you a little bit of a taste of what it takes to become a Mason as well. Which, to me, sometimes there's so much information that you can give, is you have to understand what to give them because you know what the next questions are going to be if you hook them.
Yeah. Oh, not quite leading the witness, but yeah, have the answer ready for him. Yep.
Sure.
Okay. Let's go to Nick then.
All right, so I didn't know if I was going to be on today, so I'm going to kind of shoot from the cuff. But to me, Freemasonry is a fraternity that is both dedicated to the adoration of deity, however you choose to view him, her, or it, and it also focuses on the improvement of both self and others through a shared experience of a shared experience built around tools and implements of ancient stonemasons. That's about all I got.
It's not bad. That's actually really good for off the cuff, Nick. I'll buy whatever you're selling.
Is that a mission statement?
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe we'll put a link to Weird Al's mission statement as well. All right, Robert, what have you got?
So this one is one that I always have. It's something like I memorize, like the testo, but so that I don't mess it up, I will read, because, just like ritual, you always mess up when you try to do it from memory, when it counts. So mine is, Freemasonry is a fraternity who is open to any good man who wishes to become wiser to the mysterious philosophies of the world, while at the same time being a member of one of the world's premier organizations known for their good work and charity. Members work hard to make the world better through numerous activities and also form a bond with each other, which is closer than anything else you could imagine. Our mission is to enable each other to make the world better. And then I'll usually close it with, you can take the information and forget about it, or you can come with us and change the world. And then I try to be dramatic and like throw them a card and then leave them. But that's just me.
I like that.
And it really comes from, actually, I was reading a great magazine. I think it was Fast Company, and it was about 2 years ago. And there was a woman who was working for Coca-Cola or Pepsi, and I can't remember. And Steve Jobs loved her to death. And he's like, "Come work for us. Come work for us at Apple. Come work for us at Apple." And she's like, "No." And she finally did. And she did it because he said, "Look, you can just keep working at XYZ, okay, and making your sugary drinks and
Sell sugar water, right?
Or you can come with me and change the world." And where did she go? So that was kind of why I took that. And when I did the my first kind of Masonic video on YouTube, that's how it ends. It says you can stand by and do nothing or change the world, because like it or not, that's what we do.
That's a great call to action at the end. That really is. I'm gonna use that. All right, Juan.
I really love RJ's call to action. I think that's very useful. So brothers, pay attention to that. Write it down if you can. Before I go to my pitch, there's one thing I gotta say. There has to be someone listening to this, thinking, but that's not what they get when they join.
True. Are we selling something that it's not?
Yeah, and the thing is, not everybody is gonna have it in themselves to actually do their own research, do their own search. Some people need, a guiding hand to go through. That's where my passion comes out for Masonic education. It's not just learning and memorizing and seeing these things.
Here.
It's trying to apply this stuff to our lives, because then, it's not gonna be disingenuous when you actually say it. That's what we do. And that's for another episode, but that's important that applied masonry takes a premier spot in your life. Don't just memorize, apply this stuff. All right, so my elevator pitch is, in an era where it seems that moral values are in decline, Freemasonry is a fraternity that helps men reconnect with those eroding values. It helps men divest themselves from things which hold them down and develop those which can lift them up. Freemasonry is for the kind of man who wants to improve himself, wants to lead by example, and wants to leave a legacy of excellence. While other organizations focus on networking and socializing, Freemasonry focuses on helping the individual become a better member of society.
Dude,
And there you go.
I love legacy of excellence.
Thank you.
That's outstanding.
That's pretty cool.
That's inspired by one of our past grandmasters here in Florida. He said, aim for perfection, settle for excellence.
That's a good tagline too.
Okay.
Oh, you need to put one together and just kind of do a whole big collage of these.
Hold on. You're staying in this elevator. Hit the close button. You're going to hear all of them.
Christmas tree, just.
And
Could you imagine if that happened? What is Freemasonry? And you get so excited, like Nick's eyes just light up, and he turns and he hits all of the buttons. He's like, okay, don't freak out. I'm not gonna hurt you. I just want to talk to you about swords and other good stuff.
and that person's holding 2 shopping bags going, God, he's going to kill me.
How many numbers did it hit? I mean, we got at least 5 minutes, right?
Right.
Oh, look, my friend on the 3rd floor. Excellent.
Yeah. Oh, someone call me? I gotta go.
It's like Lewis from Ghostbusters. You really shouldn't leave your TV on, Dana. Turn mine up real loud so the landlord would think that it was me too. Something wrong with the TV.
That's awesome.
Nice. All right. So last but not least, let's go switch to the one I put together, where I say Freemasonry is the world's oldest fraternity whose origins are unknown, that uses ancient ritual to transform good men into great men. Masonry helps men of good character who want to be better fathers, husbands, friends, and employees by enabling self-improvement through introspection. Unlike other service organizations, Freemasons hold themselves and each other above the norms of society to create a sacred brotherhood of men under the fatherhood of God. If you're interested, you have to take the first step. Are you willing to be a better man tomorrow than you are today?
I love the element of talking about kind of the ancient stuff, the ritual stuff, and holding ourselves to a standard higher than 99% of most people. I'm not saying there's nothing wrong with everybody. I'm just saying that
Only
we
99%.
hold ourselves accountable.
Well, that's the thing. Is actually Rex Hutchins, who, man, I can't remember where I heard him say this, but it's this beautiful idea. We always hear that terrible slogan of "We make good men better," right? Well, if you're already good, you're good, right? So how are you going to improve on that point? So what he does is he actually flips the 2 words around. It says, "We make better men good," and good is an Aristotelian concept. It's this perfection of man, and so essentially we're taking better men, better people, and making them the ultimate example for the entire universe to behold. We are that Renaissance man. So
The Renaissance man, I like that.
The Renaissance.
That's another term that's out there that we just don't use very often.
no.
That's
Well,
good.
and especially, even in our own ritual, we discuss it. We have 7 liberal arts and sciences. We're assuming that the men that are coming through, I know that it's at this point basic knowledge, but when you really think about it, you're expecting these men to become something more than they are. They're supposed to be a representative to the rest of the community, to the rest of the world. They're this votary, this light that shines on everyone and says, this is what you also should try to attain. And I think that's why people, you'll see in other countries, I'm sure all of us have received the emails, or the Facebook messages, how do I become a Freemason? And I think it's because we're just that shining example.
Yeah. Well, that and that you do that and then you get rich over there. So.
Well, that's true. Temple treasure.
All right.
And
So,
I'm sure
Go ahead, Juan.
I'm sure there are people listening that are not Masons. We have I don't know what percentage of the people that listen to a program are not Masons, or they can't be Masons, but we are not perfect. The whole thing that sets a Mason apart is the fact that, one, he had that desire to reach for perfection, and two, is doing something about it. That those two things are crucial, and we'll spend the rest of our lives trying to be better, but we'll never reach perfection. We'll continue. The important thing is, like, as we apply these lessons, hopefully we do, and sometimes we need to reapply. We need to we need to, what is it? Lather, rinse, repeat.
Lather, rinse, repeat.
There's the tagline in Masonry.
Yeah.
Lather, rinse, repeat.
So,
all right, let's say what you're talking about on social media. But before we do, that's really part of the conversation we could keep going. Although this is a live show, I'd love to hear people that are listening after the fact, listen to the podcast in their car. Take some time, put some thought into it, write down, take some of the things we talked about, mush them together, and tweet it to us or send it to our event page on Facebook. That would be amazing to hear what you guys come up with. So maybe together we can come up with a really good reusable slogan, tagline.
Well, also, to Juan's point, is saying that people listening to the show that might not be Masons, and also that might not. They're hearing these taglines and thinking, where on earth are you getting this information? Because we don't see this. And it really does allude back to what John said at the end of his elevator pitch, which was, you have to take the first step. But that's really just the first step. You also take every subsequent step.
that's right.
And to get out of it what we're talking about, you need to put in that time. So it's not like it's like a library card. We're giving you a library card. Everything is in here, but we can't read it for you.
Right.
That's true.
Beautiful.
That's true.
All right, let's go through some of the social media. There's some brothers like Michael Overturf who said he didn't need a pitch because of the family lineage. My dad and uncle are all members, and plus did a ton of reading. So the really hard question was comparing myself to them and asking if I was a good man to knock on the door. As was alluded to multiple times in this episode, there are going to be people who are going to know more about your sales pitch before you will. And so, do you have that next question ready for them? So that's a very good point. And I know that let's see, Donnie Dillon commented when he's asked about what Masonry is. My answer is always, we're one half social club, one half charitable group, and one half philosophical society.
1.5.
Yes.
4/3.
We're half better.
Half better.
But I gotta say one thing that turned up really well. Juan brought to my attention. Donnie Dillon, master of the memes, also did meet the challenge and came up with Freemasonry sales pitch in emoji. And I'd screen share it, but it doesn't work well on the computer. Go to the Facebook event page on your phone, and I'll leave the surprise to you. Maybe we'll try and get that blown up. That's got to be someone's new profile picture. Let's see. Scott Sherman, a longtime listener and occasional guest, has talked about that he likes to use Freemasonry as the world's oldest and oldest fraternal order. We take good men and through our lessons, symbols, and associations help them to become better men. And then, as was mentioned earlier, based on any questions that come after that, he'll route the conversation accordingly. Brad Parsons says, I like to tell guys it's a group of like-minded men. We care about each other, our families, and our communities. But guys will only be seriously interested if they observe you living by that philosophy. So, again, don't oversell something that you're not, right? Whether it's your lodge, whether it's you personally. If you're not acting Masonically, then maybe, again, you're not a good representative of the craft, and that's a whole nother topic, right, at a different time. Then we had a few on Twitter. Nikki Sampagna? Sampagna. Sorry if I screwed up your name there, brother. Yeah, he definitely liked the specific points with hooking people in with, the world's largest and oldest fraternity, but also close with your experience, right? We kind of left ours broad, but there's nothing that says you can't go in and say, and here's what I've got out of Masonry. I think that's a big selling point, because
you just say, and I'm a Mason, and I'm a pretty big deal.
And RJ has the shirt to demonstrate that, right?
I did.
And also, Nikki Sampagna did have a very sharp eagle eye, and did know that in my papers behind me I do have a "To Be One, Ask One" bumper sticker. So yes, there is that tagline. Yeah, I think it works, but again, it's maybe a little out of date.
You have it for the teach value, right?
Yes, it's an antique. It's historical value. But that's about it for the highlights of our social media. But again, the conversation does not stop here. I'd love to hear what you guys come up with. So after you listen to the show, think about it. Spend about 5 minutes, write it down, and let us know. Maybe we'll share it in a future episode. And with that, I think it's about time to start wrapping up. So we'll go to Nick Johnson for final thoughts and shameless plugs.
Well, it's kind of interesting. I'm going to kind of go back to know your audience. It's even more interesting now. I mean, we have elevator pitches, and how we're talking about them makes it sound like we're making these individual contacts. But at least in the experience I've had in getting new candidates, almost all of this is digital communication. So it's either email or it's Facebook or something like that. And so you have to be flexible to not just. It's a good and a bad thing, because you can have it as a, essentially a copy, and you can just, every time somebody says, "Hey, how's it going?" you can send that out. Obviously, it also looks a little robotic, and so it's also a little bit dangerous that way. But it's kind of interesting that we are now having to redraft in our minds how we are talking to these guys, because back in the 50s, it would have been a handshake. "Hey, how's it going? Let me tell you about Freemasonry. It's a great place. Pancakes. You're in, great."
Okay.
It's a lot like Lions Club.
It's a great place, pancakes.
Yeah. and so it's a lot different. I mean, we're having a very interesting discussion, because right now, and I'll get into this later, but we're getting this lodge together, and a lot of it's been digital. It's gauging interest, and it's all been digital, and we know most of the guys, at least I do, that I've chatted with, but most of them, we've just done interactions online, and so it's been a very interesting experience having to change this all around from what I'm used to. With that, I have a blog, millennialfreemason.com. There's going to be an exciting blog post tomorrow. Now, I'm still excited about the craft and all this other stuff, but there's this really funny, a little bit sardonic, a beautiful post with amazing drawings, not by Juan, that will be dropped tomorrow at 7 a.m. on my blog. It's a little bit, I don't know, it's not as rosy as what we're talking about right now. And it's not from me, it's from a guest. So I hope you like it. Also, the new lodge that I'm forming, Agape Lodge in Minnesota, that we're trying to get together, you can visit our Facebook page at facebook.com/AgapeLodgeMN. I think that is all I have. Thanks, John.
All right, thank you, Nick. I look forward to reading that one. 7 a.m., huh? That's awesome. Okay.
Yeah.
And Juan, over to you.
Okay, well, you can probably tell I've had some fun on this show. This is the stuff I really light up for. And I don't want to come across as like I'm looking down at anything, because I criticize myself for not having an elevator pitch ready. at the ready when I needed it. There's nothing worse than someone asking you about Freemasonry and you're coming across as a complete doofus. And then you give people that, you give them the chance to really validate what they have been suspecting of Freemasonry forever. Don't give people that chance. And, staying along the same line, don't leave it to chance. You don't have to sound robotic. Make sure that you have something. Even if you in your mind, just like when when I give a speech, I have specific components that I include in my speech. I don't memorize things word for word, but I have substance that I will plug into specific spots so that my message comes across as it comes across confident. It comes across as something that I know, not something I'm familiar with. No, this is something I know. And you say it in your own words, which helps you connect with the other individuals, and you don't leave any gaps. You have a very good structure that's going to leave very few questions unanswered. Then you take it from there. Then it becomes a real conversation after you've given your initial presentation. So I encourage the brothers to look at this. Even if you have an aversion for marketing and sales, please understand that this is not trying to recruit people. This is giving brothers a tool when they by default become the unofficial spokesperson to our fraternity. We don't want to give a bad impression to the people that are genuinely interested in our fraternity. We want to help them understand that we've joined something that is greater than ourselves and can make us greater than we are today. So if you want to join me in that journey to become a greater version of who I am today, go to thewindingstairs.com, a Freemasonry podcast dedicated to Masonic education and the art of self-improvement. Please visit thewindingstairs.com. Thank you, brothers.
Thank you, Juan. Robert.
Well, I guess I could start with the 1990s mantra, just because you're not paranoid doesn't mean I'm not a Freemason and out to recruit you. If you're familiar with the X-Files, that might have been funny to you. But I want to make another joke. How many people ride elevators? Unless you're like a Hilton Honors guy and you got all these points and you're staying in hotels. It's about the only time I ever ride an elevator. I'm more apt to come across these situations standing in line at the coffee shop, paying for my coffee, or at the library checking out a book, and I'm sliding the books forward and somebody sees my ring, or any number of small situations that way. My nephew found out, he's 20 years old almost, and he never knew, and he saw my ring, and he got a weird look on his face, like he was freaked out. And so, but he was super interested because he's all about alchemy and Elias Ashmole, and it was awesome. But I digress. So just be ready for those things, and like we talked about in this episode, you might not have 30 seconds. You might have 10 seconds. I was at Chicago Comic-Con 2 or 3 weeks ago, and somebody saw my hat, and you get a quick, "Hey, is that like a prop?" And you've only got a second or two, right? Because he's with his family, he's got to go. Just have something intriguing to say. In my case, it was just go to the Illinois Grand Lodge website. That's all I could say. That's all I had time for. By the way, so many people at Comic-Con wear fezzes, it's ridiculous.
Doctor Who.
Yeah, I mean, it was insane. But in any case, if I did want to mention that we did launch the episode number 7 of Masonic Radio Theater tonight. It is the Lodge of Gold, Part 1. It's only about 10 minutes. You're going to be mad that it's not as long as some of the other ones. It was so involved that we had to split it up. So we've got it out now, and future episodes are coming. Won't take as long this time around. And if you like that, please check out Whence Came You, our regular Masonic podcast that comes out Sunday nights at 9:30. And if you're not a Mason yet, what are you waiting for? You should come with us. That's all I got.
Come change the world.
That's right.
Love that tagline. That's great. All right. So as for me, yeah, this is a great conversation. I think I was actually above my expectations of what we came up with tonight. I think if we could put bits and pieces of all these things together, it would really have a fascinating kind of hook. And so, congratulations, brothers. I was really impressed by what we were able to do. And again, it's by no means complete. It'll never be complete, but I think it's definitely a good starting point for those who want to help be passionate and share what they love. Right. Another thing I want to mention is that hopefully, if all goes according to plan, on Monday I'll be elected as king in my local Royal Arch chapter. And so, as part of that, if I can get everything lined up, try and get Jason there, and we will donate the charitable donation from the pin sales of Don McAndrew's Royal Arch pin, which is for sale on our website, theMasonicRoundtable.com. And we said then that we would give half the proceeds to the show and half the proceeds to the Alzheimer's Foundation. And so, stay tuned. Hopefully we'll get some pictures and get that shared and put up on the site. So that'll be the first installment. Again, if you want to buy a pin now and get that money in now, it's great. If not, we'll be doing future installments. We still got more pins to help with that charity. So that's exciting.
Real quick, Jay,
stay tuned for that.
I just want to say, I'm sure on behalf of Juan and Nick and myself, and I'm sure Jason, congratulations on election to king.
So, that was the other hidden thing is, since the show, I have not had an officer's position. And so, as with all good things must come to an end. And
Don't worry, it's Royal Arch, nobody cares.
Right, Nick?
Yeah. Are you breathing? Hold on.
Well, grab a chair. So
Any chair. Come on.
So I'm helping out, and I think I'm glad to serve. So
Very cool.
yeah, thank you. With that, thank you very much for watching. Get your tagline and keep searching for more light. Have a good night.